Hey there, AfterBuzzers. You're watching the AfterBuzz TV After Show for Season 1, Episode 6 of The Catch, called The Benefactor. Join us tonight as we recap the episode and give you our thoughts and predictions.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
All right, hey guys, bringing it in with a little fun jam here called Slide from the Party Town.
Why don't we do that every time?
I know, right? Make it a little dance party in here, wake us up a little bit. Love it. All right, guys, as usual, I am Lauren Salaun, and you can find me everywhere online at Lauren Salaun. I'm joined by my awesome panel, Jordana and JB. Introduce yourselves and tell everyone where they can find you online.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jordana Morfin. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Jordana_Morfin.
Hi, guys. I'm JB. You can follow me at Hey John Blake on all the interwebs.
Awesome. Okay, so before we dive into tonight's episode, guys out there, make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. You can also catch all of our weekly after shows, including this one and all the others that we do and everyone else does, on iTunes and SoundCloud. And when you're on iTunes, be sure to give us a review. 5 stars if you liked it, 4 if you didn't like it, and write us a nice message. And if you do, we'll read it on air and give you a little shout out. So, I really enjoyed tonight's episode.
I did too. There was so much happening throughout the whole episode that I was intrigued the whole time.
Yes, a ton happening. It felt like the storylines, I mean, we're getting more intertwined now. It's still following a similar formula, but things are intertwining a bit more.
Yeah, a lot more payoff this episode.
Right, and I feel like this episode was much less predictable and kind of less cheesy than I feel like we've had at times.
I totally agree with that.
It felt like I was there with it, and I didn't feel like I was calling every shot, you know? Like, I was like, some little surprises along the way. So let's dive in and talk kind of about we always have some sort of case that our investigators are dealing with. And so this week, Sean and Sophie are still seeing each other, and he comes in with a case that he wants Danny's help with specifically. I don't know why do you guys think?
Do you think he did it because
to give Danny I know I know I took the girl that you kind of were crushing on. Like, here's a girl that you
might crush
cute
on
too. Yeah. I feel like maybe that.
Yeah, because it was specifically to Danny.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's going that route
right?
because I feel like he knows that Danny likes Sophie. So.
I feel like that's more of...
Or it was kind of like he wants to stroke Danny's ego a little bit because he knows, like, oh, I know you like that girl, so I'm going to be, like, talking you up and, like, oh, no, he's legit. He knows his stuff. He'll help you out and, like, give him that kind of ego boost a little bit to, like, patch things up in a way. What do you think,
it seems like a dick move.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like if he is doing that, then he's just sort of like gloating about having like one Sophie who they both were after, and he's like, well, I mean, you can have this girl that I clearly don't want, so
that I clearly don't want. Yeah,
I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just meant like if he's not going after
the girl that
her,
I'm not dating, but I could be.
That's probably a more diplomatic way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that too, for sure. So the situation is his friend Nia, played by Samira Wiley, who plays Poussey Washington on Orange is the New Black. So she's one of the steady recurring characters. Yeah, and she's awesome on Orange is the New Black. And so it's fun seeing her in this role. I mean, we've seen her other places like, Law and Order SVU, stuff like that. So it's always fun to see, folks from other shows that you really enjoy. So she is an Army Ranger, like super, like Army Rangers are like, Navy SEALs, like super elite in the Army. And she is a woman, obviously, which is not that common. And she's getting harassed a lot, at one, like, it was kind of playful initially, but getting to the point where it's clear threats. Her dog tags were sent back to her, like with a bullet hole in them and a letter, killed an action letter, like on official stationery. So somebody is very clearly trying to scare her and threaten her and, wants her dead, essentially. And so she's very much like, oh, I want to take care of it myself when we find out who it is. And all this stuff. They first think it's this guy, Evan Connors, who's harassing her, and they approach him at a bar, and he's such a dick about
I thought it was him.
Yeah, so you kind of think it's him, but later Danny's like, no, I was tailing him all night, and it wasn't. I love how Danny like just knocks him one in the bar. What did you guys see that coming at all?
No, I actually didn't see that coming. I mean, because he had that whole thing with Sean about like, you know, the strength a couple episodes ago. Right. Maybe he was trying to prove himself. I mean, he took him out in one punch, so that was pretty cool.
Right.
I liked it, but I also thought it was really funny when Nia was like, "You totally hit him wrong." Like,
you hit him little Danny.
Yeah. But I thought it was cute.
I thought it was cute too. He's like, no, I did that
side.
for me.
Yeah.
That guy's a jerk, you know? And so it's fun seeing like, oh no, he can be like tough guy, Danny. You know, he's not just super smart. Like, I don't know, but trying to kind of throw that in there too. And I did think it was cute. I didn't see them, Danny and Nia, really like being the right match in a sense, but I did like the little flirtation.
I wonder.
There.
Well, see, this is what I'm thinking. Was he really? Well, there was a flirtation, but do you think he was more doing it because he was like, "Oh, well, Sophie is kind of taken, so I guess I should, you know, take advantage of the situation." Because you could tell that he did like her, but I feel like obviously,
I think it's more like, I respect you. You're super bad. Well, I mean, they did end up sleeping together.
Yeah.
So we do have that happen. So I guess it was there. I just didn't feel it complete. Like, I don't know. You know, I didn't.
I don't think it was like out of spite.
No.
Or out of jealousy either. Like, I think he was just like, you know, you're cool. Like, we're getting along. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It doesn't have to be too committal or anything. They're just having a good time. So when they get back to her house after that night at the bar, you know, the doors open, the place is ransacked, and there's what she calls, you know, your battlefield cross. So like the boots, the gun is in the boots, the helmet on it, like dog tags, that sort of thing. And she's like, oh, this is my grave. Like, so it's escalating, getting even more serious. And they start to suspect her commanding officer, Joshua Moore. And she is pretty adamant that it's not him. Later, Danny and Alice go over to her place to, you know, look at the evidence and all this stuff. And her friend, Todd, is helping clean everything up. And they play it real quick there, you know, when she's like, someone's here, you guys can't be here. And they're like, oh, we're her property managers, making sure everything's okay, you know, which they definitely don't look like property managers. Like, even if they're like a couple who owns the house, like it's, you know, private owner, like still not.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty nice place, but that definitely would not add up. I mean, he's only an army guy, so he may have not thought twice about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, you would, I mean, I don't know that you'd really think much into that, but just like seeing that from us, knowing who they are and everything, you're like, you guys, I wouldn't believe that. And that's when then Danny sleeps over, and during the next morning, Sophie, of course, of all people, Sophie calls him, like, I don't know, but I never answer the phone, like, unless it's like my parents who are calling me unusually early. Like, if someone calls me and I've just woken up, I'm like, nah.
Especially with Nia right there.
Yeah.
And it's so funny.
That's the office, though, technically calling him.
True.
So if he doesn't pick that up, like, you know, it might be a call from his bosses.
Right, and this is a TV show, so, you know, they've got to have the drama of, oh, the girl I like is calling me while I'm
Sophie.
in bed with another person.
Plus, I mean, the way that she, like, sounded when he picked up the phone made it seem like it was later in the day. Like, maybe he slept in and it was like 10 or 11. Like, dude, where are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Come to work.
Yeah, so they find out that Todd had gotten promoted early by Sergeant Moore, the commanding officer, and so this points to Sergeant Moore being the bad guy, and she's like definitely still doesn't think it's him, none of this. So they, you know, back at their office, Alice is like, okay, well let's test it then. Let's prove that we're wrong or that we're right, and you tell Todd everything that's happened, and we'll see then what happens, you know, and who he tells. Sure enough, he tells her brother, of all people, which I wasn't expecting, and I need to, like, get ready for that more, because they do pull those little, it's usually somebody that we see.
I wasn't
is
expecting
involved.
it either. But since we did see him at the bar earlier with the whole Danny thing.
And he was like all up in
all up in
Danny's
his face. I was like,
too.
maybe. We could, I mean, it was a little bit obvious, but I was like, it's your brother? What? I don't know.
I feel like next week we need to make a guess.
Imagine your brother just making threats and like...
Well, yeah, and the funny thing about it is that his heart's in the right place.
But the way you're doing
kind of. But yeah, but the way you're doing it, have a conversation with your sister instead. You know, because he's like, okay, well, I'm worried about you. I don't want you to be a ranger. Like, you're gonna die, sort of thing. And like, if you're out in combat and shit's going down, like, your boys and your fellow soldiers need to have your back no matter what. And I'm basically proving to you right now that they don't even have your back over here. So when this is happening, so if it was this easy to turn them against you, like, if you're over there fighting for your life and something happens, they're just going to leave you out there. Like, geez.
The way you just put it out.
It's pretty cold-blooded. But I feel like I mean, there must be something to that, because I feel like if it was just him feeling an overprotective brother, then he would have said something earlier.
Right. It must he must have been trying to get it through to her over and over again, and maybe she's not listening, or maybe, you know, they're talking about their dad, who used to be like a hero Army Ranger. Did he die in combat? Did we learn that?
I don't know, but I think
so. So it's probably, you know, he probably died in combat or something serious, but I mean, her brother's also.
Well, it seems like her mind was really into it. The way she kept talking about it, she's like, "This has been a dream of mine since, you know, Dad. Like, I want to be a ranger. This is what I want to do."
Right. So. And even though, like, okay, that's sweet, you're looking out for your sister, and you know, you're doing this because you love her. You're doing it in the wrong way, and number two, like, it's not your call.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think Alice. We keep, like you pointed out, Jordana, that we keep having these moments with the cases that they're working on where something parallels to what's going on pretty much in Alice's life. You know, it's like, oh, this is happening with the case, and we're going to call it out very obviously that this relates to what's going on with Alice's situation, and where she said it herself this time, you know what, I'm tired of hearing men say that they're trying to protect us by taking our choices away. And that, I think, with the other, like, Shonda shows that we see, the female characters, it's interesting because the female characters tend to be very strong women, but women that I think also get themselves into really stupid situations for how smart they are, you know, and like get so, like, it ruins their lives. Like, all these things happen, and I like Alice, and especially in that moment of, like, she's been pretty quick to kind of reclaim that and identify that. Granted, later we see her right back in bed with Christopher, so it's like not like she really put her foot down too hard, but you know, at least, like, she recognizes what's
at least
going
she knows.
on. Yeah, right. Acknowledging it is like the first step or something. But
no, that's a really good point. I feel like Nia's character maybe would have made a different decision if she knew that, like, earlier. Like, you know, she obviously is strong enough and capable physically to make it through ranger training and become one, but would she really want to do that, knowing that, like, people aren't going to have your back?
Yeah.
Like, that's a completely different scenario, walking into, like, whatever you're doing, knowing that there's certain things, like, you don't have control over, you can't really change, like.
And she called them family too, so.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, like, the army is just like a sports team, or like a, you know, depends on a lot of people. It's like the sum is more than all of the parts.
Right.
So to kind of go in there and just pretend like the problems aren't there, I think is like kind of taking a sinking ship out to sea.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because, you know, even though she was able to be on that same level with all these men and you know, earn her position there, that still she's not viewed as, you know, one of their equals in that sense.
Well, yeah, no, I think she might be by a lot of the people. She definitely proved her own, but, you know, there's definitely certain opinions you can't change, and like,
and also, I mean, it's not necessary. It's a tricky situation because it's not necessarily like, oh, if the enemy had been coming after her, would we have saved her? I'm sure, but it's like, now we've got our other boy, like her brother, who's trying to convince us to do something, who is also one of us. And yeah, I guess when it comes down to it, like this chick versus like this guy that we also really like, we'll go with him.
Maybe there's
more.
jealousy too. Maybe she's better at,
right. So
defending and protecting.
So her brother's like little experiments don't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen, if you continue with it, or if you are in a real combat situation. Like, they're not going to choose like the bad guy or leave you in the dust, like, just because you're a woman. Like, who knows? I guess you want to hope for the best. But anyway, I liked that storyline. I think that one was a little less predictable, and I feel like I need to like be ready next week for like, okay, which characters do we know? Who does it seem like? Okay, this guy's probably involved in some way.
I did like when she, left at the end and she's talking to Danny, how Sophie gets all jealous.
So
you could tell she's a little jealous and
for
looking
sure.
back. So I'm glad that we're starting to see this storyline, evolve more.
Yeah, the slow burn.
Yeah,
that slow in-office chemistry. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can't believe Danny like basically slept with this client like while he was working with her too, like before the case had even ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, a little less professional, but what you gonna do?
I don't think anyone cares about that. Well, clearly nobody cares about that. I mean, we've seen somebody have sex just about every episode, and
in this episode we had like a
this episode we had
montage
like
of,
five
three.
different
Yeah.
couples having sex.
Yeah.
Some just like swapping people. Anyway, so let's move on from that situation. So let's talk a little bit about Dao. So last week we saw Val basically putting her foot down with Dao and being like, okay, if you don't want to get like deported, essentially, you need to work with us, like play nice, that sort of thing. And so ultimately, he's working on their side. Alice is still kind of playing the double agent there with him, feeding him enough to keep his trust, I guess, but also totally doing like her like side hustle with Christopher.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, ladies, how do you feel about Dao? Because I do not like him.
I do not. Okay, after I didn't like him, but now seeing him sleep with Valerie, I was just like...
Well, that's what I mean. Val is she's so sexy and hot and smart, and it's like...
Yeah. And why did she...
I get that Dao's got the British accent, which is one thing, but I don't know, I am not a fan
I'm not a fan
I do not think he's cool.
Well, there's just something fishy about him. I don't trust him at all.
Either. I just don't like him anymore at all. At first I was like, okay, whatever, but now I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
No, like,
the funny thing about that is their sex scene, I feel like, was one of the ones that felt the most real so far.
Honestly, when I watched it, when it just came up, I didn't even want to watch them.
I was just disappointed.
I was disappointed.
In Val.
And that's what
Val needs a
what's
little...
going through her head, though? Because does she actually...
she's, like, going through this
I understand,
divorce.
but she's seen what he's done
to,
Alice...
I think she maybe is coming at it from like a position of power in a sense, and she's just like, I don't know, because he is like, oh, okay, so you're just gonna seduce me while
use me,
Alice like scams me or whatever it is, and he's like I hope that's not the case. Are you just using me? Like, she's like, I sure am. Like, pushes him down, goes straight for it. You're like, we had to have, and the funny thing, as I'm watching it, like, I feel like we didn't have very many of those really cheesy, like, sexual puns or jokes, and until that moment, then you're like, come on, like, we were so close to, like, having stuff feel a bit less cheesy than that how moment. But I did feel like the chemistry between the two of them was...
I just wonder.
Yeah,
I felt
I agree,
it
but
a
I
little
feel like
bit
it's
more.
all coming from Val's side. Like, she can, I don't know, just deliver that so well.
Right.
Where it's like super sexy. You can tell like she's flirting. Like,
I think he has a little crush on her, though.
No, I mean that's been obvious. I mean, how can you not?
I think someone else has a little crush on her too.
Well, I'm not the only one, right? No, I feel like everybody in this show is so smooth, so slick. Like, it's all about like being a con artist and like who's got the upper hand.
Right.
and he always seems to be at the bottom of the deck for me. Like, even his line at the end, like talking about how he felt at, solving the case, quote unquote. Like, he came to the guy who was passed out with the bracelet in his pocket. And he's like,
hi.
It seemed a little too easy. It's like, dude, thank you, Captain Obvious.
Exactly.
For being in the FBI, he sucks.
Yeah, for being in the FBI, he is a little dense.
He's a little too late.
I mean, when he was, like, bugging Alice and doing all that, I'm like, oh, okay, so he's covering his tracks, and he's, like, checking everything. Now I feel like he's just, like, I'm a crush on this girl, and because the way Alice staged that scene, I'm sorry, that was pretty, like, oh, you're just gonna put the bracelet dangling out of his pocket? Like,
like, who, I mean, does he think, like, oh, classic billionaire, just passed out with champagne before the plane took off
taking this,
again.
Like, hugely valuable thing that is,
just, like,
that you came here
out of his
specifically for,
pocket,
it's just like, okay.
Like, okay.
No. Alice should have done a little bit better than that. But yeah, so I think we'll see Dao getting a little more suspicious on all of them in the future. So let's talk about our kind of bigger chunk of goodies here. So the bracelet, Team Margot, Christopher / Ben situation, all that stuff. So we learn very early on, like first scene, I think, Margot's brother, Reese, is in town. And Reese is the benefactor, the one coming to collect the money. So he's the guy they owe all this money to. He's in bed with Felicity, who isn't. And I liked him a lot.
I like him too. There's something about him, and he's like
charming, dangerous,
wild. And kind of funny.
Yeah.
I think, well, like when Ben and him were talking earlier, because Ben worked with him, and they're like, oh, we got drunk every night. You know,
the ladies.
So he seems like a fun guy in a dangerous way.
He's the fun brother.
He's the fun,
the wild, the
fun
loose
one.
cannon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And we learn a bit more about the family and that whole situation, or the firm. You know, they've got all these like mafioso type names for it all.
Yeah, the syndicate.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's there because he says, "Oh, Mom sent me to get the bracelet, but also wants me to like make peace with you, Margot." And so they still owe him all this money, and there's talk about like, you know, what their falling out was over and why Margot didn't come, you know, wasn't the one in line to take over. So that maybe, you know, Reese is her younger brother, I take it, because she should have been next in line when their dad died. And he's like, oh, you silly woman, you're a woman.
Another thing with the woman.
Right.
Like with the Nia case and now this.
Yeah, a lot of women not getting what they deserve in this episode. And so Margot, you know, plays Felicity against him and ends up finding out that he wants the bracelet because he's not going to sell it or anything like that. He's going to give it to Shive. What was Shive's name? The other guy, Daddy Shive, who, so that they can start doing business with India, the Middle East, and Africa.
Yeah.
And so this is like a peace offering, a gift for these guys so that they can kind of, you know, expand their operations to more countries. And so, you know, Margot steps in, of course, like, okay, don't give it back to them. Like, the boss is in town, like, I'll handle it, all this stuff. And they meet with Mickey Shive, who was the one that shot Christopher last week and all this. And they end up, I liked that scene where Christopher and Reese are just chit-chatting because, you know, we learn about the history between them, which is fun. But then they just, like, take off their coats and they're wearing full cop uniforms. Like, that was pretty hilarious. And they get in the patrol car and Reese is like, when can we turn on the siren? You know, all that. And they get Mickey, they get, you know, and just shoot him right there when they're done with him. And that we saw, you know, Christopher's face. He's stunned by that. And I think...
Well, yeah, Reese kept tasing Mickey.
Yeah. Pretty funny. And well, tasing, he's like using like a cattle prod, like super taser. Yeah. And he's like, oh, we don't want any loose ends, you know. And we've already seen Margot very easily just shoot somebody, and now Reese. So like that's not that big of a deal for them.
Yeah, they've clearly been desensitized to murder in that fan.
I'm curious as to why Ben went with Margot and didn't stay with Reese. Is it because of this whole obviously he seems more dangerous than Margot, but I wonder why he decided to
because Ben's reason to him is because of the relationship sort of thing, and Reese is you're so whipped, you're not your own person, all that. But obviously there had to be a bigger reason why Ben did that.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, maybe it was just kind of growing up.
Yeah.
Not like that he just wanted to kind of get away from the, full...
He wanted a new venture.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Yeah.
Possibly. Interesting. Or did they start the whole con with Alice before
I don't think
they left? No.
I don't think so. Because he didn't know about it until the end.
Right. Yeah. So we don't know what that initial reasoning was or how Ben really got involved with them. I mean, Margot said that they kind of grew up together, but...
And Reese said, we took you in as family. So.
Yeah, so something I feel like happened, his parents were killed somehow in some con they were pulling off, or maybe his parents worked with their parents. Who knows what happened there, but I think there's some good history there. And
he's definitely very connected with the family. He was dating Margot, obviously, and clearly homies with Reese.
Yeah, exactly. So Margot decides to, give Reese back the bracelet. And the whole bracelet thing, obviously we see, Alice ends up planting the bracelet on old Shive in the airplane. She plays stewardess, that sort of thing. So she made had somebody create a replica of the bracelet. I thought we would see a little bit more of that process. Let me just get another bracelet that's going to trick an FBI agent.
In 12 hours in the middle of the night.
Because it can't be fake. Problem. I'm sorry. Somebody's going to be checking those diamonds.
Right. It's a $12 million bracelet, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They said that last time. So I don't know who's their forger, but they're incredible.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And where they're by the way, we need this many millions of dollars of diamonds right now.
And who do you think got the fake one?
That's the thing.
They didn't go into that at all.
No, I thought we would see a little bit more of that. So
the only thing we did see was the painting when they referred to it. The painting that she has. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing, right? And then it just went directly into
one
that.
Is a forged version.
So that's where they got the idea of the bracelet.
Right. That's what she was saying. What if, we give him a bracelet and him a bracelet sort of thing. So we don't know who got the real one though. I would assume, Alice's goal, she was just going to return it to the consulate, because she's all about doing the right thing and making sure no one dies, but doing the right thing still. So she was going to return the bracelet. So I don't think she still would want the bracelet to go with the bad guys. So on that note, you would think she would want Dao to find the real bracelet, but then you've got to assume that if the bad guys have the fake bracelet, they're going to check that real quick, and then Christopher gets killed. So it's which is the better option? The better option is probably giving the real bracelet to Reese, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because then you can secure Ben's life.
Exactly, and both sides are going to check that pretty quick. Dao's going to find out he got played pretty quickly. He already feels like it,
right?
For sure. So that's what I'm thinking, but we don't know exactly. So
yeah, I wish they went into it a little bit. Obviously it's TV, so it just has to work. Mm-hmm. But I wish they went into it a little bit more, even just having a master bracelet forger or something. Yeah. So where they knew it couldn't be detected or something.
Right. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll see more of that.
Maybe.
Next week? I don't know. We shall see with that. So toward the end there, Felicity and Margot are in bed. There's some funny back and forth and stuff Felicity, girl, come on, sleeping with the brother and sister, you're a freak. But But yeah, and she's like, oh, so who's better, brother or sister, you know? And I like how Margot just tells her, like, girl, stop it. This is disgusting. But she's still, like, not against, like, jumping in bed with her.
You.
Yeah. and so they are in bed saying their goodbyes, and Rhys has put her in charge of the new operation in India, Middle East, Africa, all that sort of thing. And as she's leaving Margot's room, of course, Rhys catches her out there, and she's like, oh, I'm just saying bye. Like, okay, first of all, Felicity, like, I get that you're, like, you do stupid stuff when you have a crush on somebody, but, girl, you're a super spy.
Yeah.
And you're like, crossing people that are on your team. Be a little more careful.
Dangerous people.
Yeah.
Right when we saw Rhys outside, my first thought was like, oh, she's dead.
Yeah,
she's
isn't.
completely dead.
I think I said while we were watching Shooter, kill her.
Well, I mean, even as he was walking her back, it was like a complete walk of shame.
Yeah.
She was holding her shoes.
Yeah,
like,
it was such a walk of shame. And he goes, let's go have a chat. And you're like, chat means dead.
Yeah.
And the first thing she says to him when they're back at the room was,
Yeah.
I didn't tell her about the bracelet.
Yeah, oh, well.
Okay,
Yeah,
obvious. How much more obvious can you get?
Oh, you didn't? That's not what I was going to say. You know, so yeah. And then he just, again, I mean, we saw him so nonchalantly shoot Mickey Shive, and he's asking Felicity back in the room, like, okay, so why did Margot say that she missed her last payment last month? And he's like, oh, she said there was something about a woman, Alice Vaughan. He's like, Alice Vaughan, cool. Pew! You know, and done.
Yeah, I just typed it into like Mafia Google.
Yeah, he's like, Alice Vaughan, okay, let's find you. Did anyone, I mean, that, even him shooting her, Felicity, just like that was pretty shocking, but I like that they're not being like too precious with these characters that we see for, I mean, she's been around for what, 3 episodes? This was her 3rd episode. So you kind of felt like, I know I did at least, kind of felt like she was going to stick around for a little while. So I like that they're like, nope,
you're dead.
Yeah. She was a little annoying sometimes too.
Wait, speaking really quick of the whole shooting thing. So Rhys was the one who shot the other girl, right? The one that
Which other girl?
Dao was talking about.
Dow's
because remember,
girl?
Yeah, remember when he shot Mickey?
Right.
He had the same exact, the double shot that the woman had, and you know what I'm talking about. But Dao keeps thinking that it's Christopher, so it's obviously Rhys. I'm assuming. I
think it's Rhys for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, just how because we want to like Christopher and we want to trust Christopher. That would be a big twist. Yeah. But I think even in tonight's episode, seeing Christopher's face when Rhys shoots Mickey, who's like a bad guy, you know, he's shocked by that. Yeah. And not that that's like the first person that has been killed in front of him or anything like that, but I'd be surprised if it really turns out to be Christopher.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just would go against character, I think, at this point. Like, he never really even uses guns.
It would also be a good twist, you know, and a good surprise, and maybe that's like that could be the catalyst for why he joined Team Margot. You know, something there happened.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I would welcome that. Like, if maybe back in the day when it was like Rhys and Ben,
they're
take
like
London,
girls drinking and shooting people.
Exactly. Like, you know, and then maybe he turns a new leaf and goes with Margot to kind of get away from that.
The bad side of him shooting people.
Maybe.
I like that. Yeah. I like that angle. Alrighty. So, and in the end, Rhys pretty much announces he's going to stick around for a little while, which is going to be fun because he adds an extra dangerous twist to things and he's a fun character.
I really like him as a character. I think he's like funny and like sets the whole group dynamic in kind of
adds
a weird
little
direction.
more loose cannon.
I'm curious as to what he wants to do with the whole Alice Vaughan situation.
Yes.
You know,
very, very curious about that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we'll get to predictions in a few minutes. So, let's close up talking about little Ben and Alice. Ben / Christopher, Alice. So, I like in the beginning how he was so like calls her about the bracelet, like she's being so coy and like, oh, I got your bracelet, haha, come and get it, you know.
Like, woman,
and he's like,
there's real death.
He's like, you are going to die.
Situation here right now.
Yeah, he's like, no, okay, this is cute and all.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
How do you not believe that?
Right? She's like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's like so like flirty, silly. And he's like, no, okay, you're cute. I like you, but come on. What's happening here? And so as she's, you know, she's talking to him about how she's going to return it to the consulate, gets held up at gunpoint, all this stuff. And I like how cool she was in that moment. She's like, oh, things just got a little bit complicated on my end. Bye. You know, but she didn't freak out. She didn't, nothing. And she's like trying to kick ass. She's outnumbered, you know, and they have guns, stuff like that. And then Christopher, of course, like zooms in to save the day so damn fast. I'm sorry.
How did he know?
Yeah, he must have been very close by.
Yeah. But like keeping tabs on her for sure.
Or keeping tabs on them is my guess. Yeah. He's following Mickey to get it back. And
that's true. That's true. And then later, you know, at her place, Dao is pretty much telling Val that he thinks Christopher shot the woman. So this comes, you know, Alice again is doubting him. And that's where the whole duplicate bracelet thing comes up. And I liked her playing the flight attendant thing. Like she was so smooth with that because that timing had to be so quick. Get on that plane, pull that, get a quick change and like show up right as Dao is getting there. Pretty slick. And I like the slickness of the show. We've talked about that before. I like it. They almost kiss. Christopher and Alice almost kiss in the car in that moment. Yeah. I thought it was so cute. He's like leaning it, like they're like, oh, we're such cute, like super couple, you know, and leaning in to kiss her, and she like, you know, she pulls away from it. I mean, only delays things like, you know, a couple hours because a little bit later they are hooking up, and I still don't feel it.
You know what? When you said that, I don't feel it. I don't feel it when they're hooking up. Right when they're in bed and like
that's exactly what I was saying too.
That's when you feel like their connection.
I feel it when they're flirting, when they're being badasses together, when they're talking, when they're like kiss each other and are sweet to each other. I don't feel it when they start taking their clothes off and actually trying to hook up.
I completely agree with you on that one.
JB.
So only about the pillow talk. I mean, the first shot there was like a wide that like she had her like they were in the kitchen, I think, and he picked her up and she had her legs around him. I thought that was good, but we were pretty far away.
It was a sexy shot, but again, like I feel like it's so like choreographed. You know, like they're like, now I'm a robot, move my leg here and now here. Does this look like what sex is? You know, like.
Also, they have
fair enough. I mean, I feel like it'd be weird. Like, you know, that's a testament to how good actors who can do that are. There's like a room full of strangers and lights, like in that room with you.
And then the scene before them having sex was Dao and Val. So I was already like, eh. And then they showed this, I was like, all right.
But even just like those were like mash cut together, like even seeing those
victory sex
like
montage.
that, all the sex in the last 5 minutes. If you just need a little bit of sex scenes, just zoom to the last like 10 minutes for you. And so that was like spliced together like that. And even though we don't want Dao and Val together, that chemistry felt so much more real than Christopher and Alice's chemistry, you know? Which is so frustrating that it's like, it's such a bummer, like when the flirting is better than like the actual thing, you know.
I think also something was the whole interaction that Dao and Val had, you know, where they were like talking and like flirting. And every time we see the whole interaction with Ben and Alice, it's just like, boom, you know, just like scene and they're already in bed, like making out or on the table. And we're like, okay, you know. Maybe that's
we don't get like any build up aside from when they're like nearly getting killed in the middle of things, because most of their other conversation is like about the betrayal and you know, well, who are you really, like deep shit,
and then later on you just see them it's like sexy and it's not, you know, there's no build up to it. Maybe that's why it doesn't feel
fair enough. I mean, they're also like the furthest technically along, like they're the married couple almost. They were engaged, so they've been with each other for a longer period of time. Like Dao and Val, that was the first hookup. The Margot Felicity was like forbidden love. So I feel like there's other passionate elements involved in the other ones.
But I feel like they can still say stuff like.
That's true.
I don't know. No.
Married couples can have passion too, or should.
I don't know. They also have like crazy thing going on right now. So.
Yeah, they're not like lacking for like excitement in their relationship. It's like all new.
True. I mean, they just pulled off a
Yeah.
heist that was, most of Alice's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll give them another chance. we just want to see, like, because I love their dynamic together and their conversations and they're like pulling off these little stunts and tricks together. But then it's like, I lose it in the bedroom for them. Anyway.
You should be their sex therapist.
I don't know how I would help them. Anyway, so that's kind of them, and I like though that they've like are reconnecting, and it's interesting because Alice is like, you ruined my life, and yet here you are in bed. He's like, oh, you want me to get out? And she's like, no, and they're like, okay, like it's cute. All right, so we are just about out of time. Let's move on to some predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay, so next week we've got a gambling con, some more sex, and a big twist. Okay, so I'm thinking Reese, that's just from the little teaser. I think that Reese follows, well, we know he looked up Alice.
I think he's gonna follow her around.
Yeah, and catch her meeting with Christopher, and shit's gonna go down.
I wonder if he's gonna tell Margot.
Or deal with it.
Tell Margot what?
That he's been seeing Alice again.
Yeah, because
I don't think
where the
that's gonna
heck?
go well.
When is Reggie coming
Yeah,
back?
I was thinking about him earlier. I was like, we haven't seen him in a while.
Because Reggie's
Is he
supposed to
still
be
in
like
the show,
right? Because he's supposed to be kind of like looking out for Christopher's booty, and like maybe
he's been MIA.
I wonder
for sure.
if he comes back and kind of like steps in, because I feel like this could very much be like Margot and Reese kind of team up against Christopher in some way, though I don't think she would believe Reese over Christopher
unless he
snaps
proof.
pictures. We see that, so that'll be very interesting. I'm gonna like
Plus, I don't think that either of them could do what they want without Ben. Like he's so good, skills wise.
And I feel like he probably would have. Jordana.
I just thought about it.
What?
Lay it down.
Reese is gonna confront Ben about it and be like, "Hey, I have all this proof. If you don't come back with me, then I'm gonna tell Margot." Maybe he's gonna find that way to bring him back on his team,
or to make him some money in this whole casino scam.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's gonna use that against
blackmailing.
Well, he's definitely on Alice train, and like it's an easy line to find out.
I think Reggie might come back and
he has to come
throw
back.
a wrench into things too, and kind of be like,
I hope he does,
helping Christopher out a little bit. Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah.
So all right, I think that just about does it. This was an exciting one this week, and I feel like the show's been getting better each week. So I mean, we had a really great pilot, and I think I'm excited
better.
to see how things are going to progress. So, guys, thanks for tuning in and watching us live, all y'all in the chat. Be sure to tweet to us throughout the week and now. Let us know what you're thinking. And we will see you here next week, same place, same time. And in the meantime, you can find me, Lauren Salaun, everywhere on social media, especially Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter at Lauren Salaun, LAUREN SALAUN. And you guys?
You guys can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at Jordana_Morfin.
You guys can find me, JB, at Hey John Blake on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.